Hi Umbraco family, it's me, Warren, and in today's Hack Make Do, I want to take you on a journey through the new Umbraco UI library from the lovely front-end team and talk about web components. So let's jump on in and let's take a look. Okay, so here I'm looking at the UI library from the front-end team. So this is at uui.umbraco.com, and it's a storybook, which is just a collection of web components and allows us to view documentation and see different web components that are comprised of this UUI library. So we have things like this avatar group. We have things like a badge on a component. So you can see, I can see like a badge on a button to kind of get someone's attention. And then we have things like media cards and other various different bits and pieces. We have buttons and things like that, buttons with different looks and badges and sizes. So you can kind of think of these web components or this UUI library as building blocks or Lego building blocks to kind of build up a more complex UI. So you get your Lego bricks and you might build a castle, you might build a robot. It really depends. So that's kind of the mentality I would see with this UUI library. And I'm going to jump in and let's take a look at kind of using this web component library. So I know if I go and look over on NPM, and if I look for umbraco-UI, and there'll be many packages, so I can just quickly do that and come back. So there's UUI base, UUI reference node, UUI icon. So each of these is an individual package. I know the front end team are considering how they're going to do bundling and releases later on, but as it's still in its early infancy, we're not at 1.0 just yet. I know that the NPM package that I need to use is the, as we go back, too much, is the umbraco-UI /UUI. So that's the collection of all the components in one. If I was using this in a node project, obviously I can then do an NPM install. But for today's demo, I'm just going to use this JavaScript tag. So it's been delivered by some CDN, in this case jsdeliver.net, and then I can start using these web components. So here I've got Visual Studio Code. So I am going to scaffold a HTML template, and we can use Emmet here, so exclamation mark and then hit tab, and then we get some nice completion. And then first thing we'll do, we'll inject that JavaScript. And to make life easier, I'm going to use the live preview Visual Studio Code extension, and then we're going to show the preview on the right. For now, let's just put in a hello h1 that says hello world. Perfect. So let's go back to the UUI library and let's take a look at one of these buttons. For example, this primary look button. I'd like that button in my. Maybe I'm making a prototype of a UI, and to keep in mind, this UUI library, it's not specific to Umbraco and the Umbraco back office. I could use this anywhere. Here I'm just using it in a HTML page. I could use it in an Electron app, and I know that we're dog fooding this internally over on the Umbraco Cloud portal. Eventually, obviously, these components will build up the Umbraco back office at a later date, obviously composed of different Lego bricks and components to make up the UI that we know as the back office. But there's nothing to stop you using this anywhere else that obviously takes HTML. So there you go, I've added UUI button, I've got a look of primary, and I've got this primary look button. I've not had to inject any CSS, that's coming from the web component itself. So web components have scoped styled CSS. So we get this kind of on brand or Umbraco looking kind of dark blue and a lightish blue when I hover. Obviously I could change this. Let's go back to the documentation. So what have we got? Primary, secondary, positive, or danger. Let's do danger. Danger, I've got a danger button. So you can see it hovers, I've got this different red. Again, nice and simple. All I've done is reference the JavaScript file and then start using this HTML. And this is just like any other HTML element. When you think of web components, it is just another HTML element. So it's no different than a H1 or an anchor tag. It's just a new HTML element that the UI library that we've created. So with that being done, we've got our button. I want to try and use the font or the font styling from Umbraco. So hence I am going to have to use some CSS here. So I would like to use this kind of, the font that we're using. And then if we come down to, where is it, CSS, you can see we've got the CSS is made up of 1, 2, 3, or 4 bundles, or 4 different ones. So there's custom properties. So these are all the custom properties in CSS. So where you've got the var, hyphen, I don't know, background look or whatever, the custom properties that the UI team has set up. Then we've got one for the font. So this is literally just for delivering the font file. And then we've got one for text and kind of styling the typography. And then we've got this bundle or UUI CSS, which kind of bundles this 1, 2, 3 CSS files. So with that said, if I go and look on npm and I go for umbraco-ui and look for UUI-CSS, I can see I can use a CDN again rather than an npm package, just because I'm using a static HTML file. But if I was using a Node JavaScript project or using some bundling tool, then obviously maybe I'd use the npm instead. So hence let's add that in and save that. Nothing's changed, and the why that is that to deliver the font file down and cascade down the elements of DOM elements, we need to specify a class on a parent element, and in our case the topmost element in our page is the body, so it just makes sense to add it here, UUI-font. And you can see straight away I've got the nice font file, I've gotten the nice font weight and sizes and things like that. Perfect. Oh, I've just realized I've done a double quote. So that's a quick look. So now we've got the button quite quickly and easily. We could, what could we do? We could go and look at something a bit more specialized from the component library or the web components. So let's take a look at, I kind of like the references, so the reference list. So this is kind of, again, it has some similarity to the back office. But this is just a list of stuff. In our case, we've got reference types for data types, document types, forms, members, packages, users, nodes, and anything else. This is just a list of stuff, which obviously when I hover over it, I get a nice remove button. So let's copy and paste this code example and see what we get. Again, I'm not having to, let's save that, and straight away I've got the exact same look and feel. Let's just format the document. There we go, that looks a little bit nicer. So yep, I've got node 1, you can see. Let's update this. Hello world, you can see, and this detail. So for a node, it makes sense to have a path, and maybe again in the back office it makes sense. But in my application that I'm building, which is, I don't know, a list of staff members or something, maybe I could have their department that they're in, D team or something. And then you can see in this next section inside this component or this element, we're using another component. So again, this reference node, if I take this out, it still works, but I just now don't get the remove or the button at the end here. So if I just undo, you can see this. I have this UUI action bar, and it's in the slot of the UUI reference node to use in the actions location. And in here, it's using a UUI button of label remove. I'm not sure that entirely that the label is necessarily needed here because the text is inside here. So let's change this to look equals positive. And if I save that, you can see when I hover over the element now, I've got a green button. And that is obviously just mixing and matching the different web components together to quickly give a different look and feel. I could have just kept it with this very simple grey-ish outline or grey subtle background for the remove instead. But yeah, maybe for whatever reason, or I want danger because it's removing, you're doing something. Maybe you prefer that kind of look and feel. You get the point. Here we're quite easily able to kind of compose and build what we want. So from, let's just go back to the documentation. Let's have a look, what else have we got? So that was a reference list. So that's the kind of the container that contains all these items. So we've got reference node. So let's take a look. So here we've got like an icon, the name of the page, maybe the path, and look, we've got like a badge that says published. So let's take a look at that. We could copy it. And we could put it underneath just to see. Let's format the document just to make it a little bit nicer. There we go. So yep, we got some rabbit suit product page, and again I have some path, and when I hover over it, I don't get I do get an icon, but I haven't used the icon correctly. So for now, we'll change that back to a button. But yeah, you can see I'm mixing and matching different pieces. So now when I hover over it, I've got a remove button. I've got like this badge or this tag to say this particular item in the list is published. But if it was members or staff members, maybe the badge could be, so the UUI tag web component. We've got a size property here, and then we're saying of the reference node, use the slot tag, so which is this visible location, so this is here. Use a positive looking tag and use the word published. So maybe I could have, I don't know, full-time. We could have it be, I don't know, student worker. Maybe that is a, I don't know, it's a warning. Not sure why. Not that student workers need warnings. They're fab. Yeah, or I can remove the look altogether and we get this kind of greyish look. So again, nice, easy way here that I'm doing rapid-ish prototyping of the UI to kind of see and get the look and feel of what I want. So if I just go back, what else have we got on here? So we've got properties. So these can be set via code, and some of this can be set as attributes. So attributes on the HTML element itself. So we've got name, detail, disabled. So we could make this one, add an attribute of disabled. See, now you can see it's grayed out and I can't really do anything. Let's take that off, and I believe there is selectable. Is another attribute we can add. So as I hover over it, you can see I get this blue outline to say that, yep, I can select this item in this list. So maybe I'm building some staff member picker or something along those lines. I want to say like Mr. Rabbit and Mr. Node free is going to get a promotion from student worker to full-time worker. I could use this UI to kind of click and select different members of the team, and then I don't know, have a button to say promote or something. So yeah, you can see I can click it, I can select it, and that's just by adding the selectable. Again, all the CSS is inside the web component. So if I was to comment out, we still get the icons, we still get the colors of the blue, the bits and pieces. We're just not getting the font and some of the padding and things like that. So just to bring that point home again. So we've done selectable, we've done disabled. We could obviously add error. I know that's another one. So we can get a nice red error. Maybe when I was selecting my staff members that I want to give a promotion to, the student workers, and I've selected them, and maybe this student worker has only done 2 days at the company. Maybe it doesn't quite make sense just yet to give that specific student worker a promotion just after 2 days. Maybe the business logic is that a minimum must be of 2 months or something to that effect. So we can obviously then give some error looking syntax. Brilliant. So I've done some of that, and we've done and built our kind of like UI. This doesn't depend on any frameworks. This is just native HTML elements. We're not using Angular, we're not using React or Vue or whatever cool new technology that's coming around the corner. This is native web components. This is like any other HTML element that comes out the box. So a form tag, an anchor tag, a normal button tag. So yeah, this allows us so much more flexibility, because I can then decide if I want to use a framework to help me prototype and use some of these elements or web components along with their properties and the events that they raise. I could either use vanilla JavaScript, which I'm going to show in a second, or I could use Vue, React, whatever. So let's just put a script tag down here at the bottom, and then let's give this button up here an ID of not very original, my button, and then let's do bar button equals document get element by ID my button. And then we could do a click or add an event listener. And let's just refer back to the documentation for a button group. And in here we've got all these properties, the look, if it's a compact button, so we can fiddle with these buttons as well. So look, as I change it from secondary to placeholder to warning, you can see I'm getting an updated look here, and obviously can fiddle with some of these other properties. So the events it fires, or what we can listen for, is a click event. So we can do that. So add event listener. Oh, there we go. And rather than doing a hello world, we're going to update a property on the button. So we could set the property. What was it? I had some properties. So we have a label, and we have a state, and a state is obviously this case. Let's just have a quick look. Got waiting, so we've got like a spinner. So I suppose if you're clicking the button and then you're sending off an API request and it takes a long time, you might want to set this kind of waiting state to say, look, I'm doing something. And obviously once the response comes back, you might want to either set this success, which gives a tick, and then sets the button back to its kind of original state. So we will set button.state equals success. And again, if I was in the land of a Node project and using npm import or npm modules and kind of importing the web components in to kind of compose up and build my UI, then obviously I would get better completions because the web components that we ship has been built with TypeScript, and TypeScript gives us completions and definitions to help us. So we were able to see what properties are available on this button and the states and things like that. So obviously I'm having to jump back and forth to the documentation just because I'm using vanilla JavaScript here. So when we click it, I want to set the state to success, and I don't know, let's change the button dot label equals hello world, and let's save that. So when we click it, we get our tick, but the label didn't work. Interesting. I assume that's primary. Let's do this. Maybe because the text inside here is what is overriding. Let's find out. So now when I click it, tick, hello world, there we go. So we're having the child text or the text in here, that one. If you want to kind of set the property of the button or the label of the button programmatically, obviously just use this attribute and don't set anything inside the button. Yeah, again, various different reasons why you may want to do that. So that was playing with the button. Let's take a look at, let's turn this into some, I know we've got some reference nodes that look more like members or users or people. So we've got one that is what, a UUI ref node member. So we'll make this one. So now I've got like an icon for a user or a member or a person or staff. And what other properties? Group name. We could put that in group hyphen name for attributes. So attributes are separated with hyphens. And so the group name, maybe they are in SWAT for now. I don't know. So you can see I've still got the similar look and feel. Perfect. And maybe I don't want the remove button, so we can get rid of this action bar, which could have one or more buttons in it, couldn't it? Which I've just seen is badly done. I've copied that wrong. So we could have promote and get rid of this label. So we could have two here on this one, promote. We could make this one like look positive, look equals danger. There we go. Oh, look, where I've got two buttons side by side, I get this, because it's wrapped in an action bar, I get this kind of nice styling as well. So we can just quickly show that. So where are we? Buttons and a button group. So you can see a collection of buttons here. And then these are obviously in the same look and feel. And I think, here you go, there's some mixed looks like we've just done. And then obviously we could have used a button with an icon instead and things like that. Right, so we've got this. We've updated it, and we're going to write some JavaScript against this rabbit one. So we'll just give it an ID, I don't know, just so that we can easily target in JavaScript for now. Again, depending on what you're doing and what intentions you intend to do, if you want to use a framework to help you loop over a collection of reference nodes, or if you still just want to use vanilla JavaScript and map an array from some data source, then obviously you still could and create the elements programmatically. Document get element by ID of rabbit, and right, so let's take a look. So I believe there's a couple of event listers that we could use here. Let's take a look. So some of the stories are with a custom icon, with a border, with selectable or disabled, and or in a list. So there's 3 slots, one for an icon, one for a tag, one for actions. And the events are selected, open, and unselected. So let's go through these. So we're going to do rabbit dot add event listener, and what was it? It was selected. And when we select it, we're going to change the rabbit dot name to be evil rabbit. I don't know why it's evil, but and then we'll duplicate this. We're going to add another event listener, and we'll have one for unselected, and then we'll just, I don't know, maybe we'll just set it back to rabbit. So we're setting some of these properties when an event is happening, and then we've got rabbit.add event listener, and then we had one for open, if my memory serves me correctly. Oh. And what could we do here? We could make the element, the component, when you try to open it. So if you kind of like clicking it, you're clicking to view the member. Maybe you would, I don't know, show a dialogue or show some more information. But in this case, I'm going to just say that it has an error, and we're going to set it to true. So we save that. Let's try some of this out then. So let's just double check that we have the selectable. So we don't. So that event's not going to fire. But if I click the name, so this is the open event as far as I'm aware. Yes. So when I clicked it, it set the property of error to true. Let's see if I refresh. And as I've not got the selectable attribute, or I've not set it up in code as a property, or the property's not been updated for this component, that the selectable property is set to true, then these two other events was obviously not going to fire. So hopefully now when I select it, the text is going to change to evil rabbit. When I unselect it, it will just change back to rabbit. So anywhere along here, I'm going to click it. There we go, it's changed to evil rabbit. And if I click away, no, it's not click away, it's click it again to kind of deselect it. That's my misunderstanding. It's changed back to rabbit. And then obviously I could add event listeners or things to these buttons here. So I could click, when I click the promote button inside here, that it goes off and does what it needs to do. So that is it. That is a very quick, probably 20-30 minutes intro to the Umbraco UUI library. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you followed along, and I look forward to seeing you prototyping and building some UI and UX stuff with our UUI components. Just as a caveat, if you want to start using this in the back office in your package, eventually the Umbraco back office will ship the JavaScript library to the web component. So where I've added it in here manually, if you're going to start building something like a dashboard or a property editor, you would have to ship or bundle this yourself for the time being until a time comes when the Umbraco back office just ships this out of the box. So go and have fun hacking. Go and have fun. Yeah, happy hacking. And until next time, I'll see you around. Bye.